The deep web, a mere corner of the internet or an abyss of unknown horrors. Amidst codes and anonymity lie real stories that challenge logic and fear. Prepare to uncover tales that will chill your soul and make you question reality. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Let's move on to the first story.
During my first year of college, I was introduced to the Tor browser by my new roommate, Matt. Those of you who have been on the internet long enough know that Tor is a browser used to access the dark web, something we often did. As a 20-year-old guy experiencing his first moments living away from home and being given a way to access almost anything I wanted with just a few clicks, it felt like having absolute freedom in my hands. While we mostly used it to access pirated games and movies or maybe visit some banned websites, there were moments when I found myself on the darker sides of it all. Honestly, I saw some pretty disturbing things that I really didn't want or need to see, except to satisfy my morbid curiosity. While I mostly regret those deeper explorations into the dark web, one of them may very well have saved my life. It was around 2 a.m. on a Friday night, late in my junior year of college, and Matt had spent the night at a cousin's house, leaving me alone. I was browsing the web, flipping through various obscure movie sites and running games I technically didn't own, when I got a strange pop-up ad that said, "Unique auction of limited items, one of a kind in the world. Grab it now or never again. Don't miss out on these items." It was flashing in a red and green comic-style font. I had gone to a few of these auctions on the dark web, even participated in some on impulse, bidding on things that piqued my dumb college brain. This ranged from things like overly engraved golden pistols, the kind you'd only see in movies, to 2 kilograms of the best weed grown in the purest soils of Jamaica, just for that little adrenaline rush. Of course, I only bid like 10 or 20 bucks at most, knowing that winning anything would land me in jail. I wasn't exactly the smartest guy around this time, though. I decided to check out the auction and clicked on the link. As I browsed through the bids, at first it wasn't anything serious, mostly firearms and drugs, you know, the typical dark web catalog. But as I scrolled down the list, the items got more extreme, much more extreme. It started with simple low-caliber pistols that you could buy in department stores in the United States, but quickly shifted to sniper rifles and light machine guns suitable for military elites. Eventually, I was being offered small nuclear explosives, claiming to have enough power to obliterate small cities into ash and sulfur. There was super strong weed and funny mushrooms that quickly turned into ads for kilos of Colombian cocaine and boxes of pounds of fentanyl pills. The darkest of all were what I assume were experimental drugs, black and yellow viscous substances contained in test tubes that didn't even have real names, just a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. Judging by the descriptions, these things would fry your brain, considering the people selling them explain the effects through mostly incoherent and barely understandable sentences, insinuating that they had indulged in their own supply. Eventually, I reached what I took to be the catalog of killers and hitmen for hire, poisons, guns, silencers, foolproof fake passports and identities, even codes that were supposedly instructions on how to reach areas in your location where bodies are most often hidden and never found. There were even other codes labeled as instructional tapes made by professionals on how to escape prison for various types of murder. If you didn't want to do the job yourself, you could buy the phone number of a top-class hitman near you, who would ensure your job was done effectively. Things only got worse when I scrolled to the next page and saw pictures of people, some even children, with their names listed below. They were advertising human trafficking and assigning each of their products a small biography, as if they were stat cards. They listed everything from address to allergies, strengths, weaknesses, and even their daily routine. I had seen this kind of black room before and was well aware of how sick people can be on the dark web, but seeing it never became any less disturbing, especially when reading some of the things these bidders wanted to do with the product once they had it in their hands. That discomfort quickly turned into agonizing and unimaginable fear when I scrolled down the page to see my own portrait taken on my first day of college. I began to panic as I read the details. Whoever these people were, they knew my name, age, race, height, weight, and even the small birthmark behind my ear. Not only that, but they seemed to know my entire life history since birth. My panic only increased when I saw that there were already forbids and the highest of them was almost $10,000. The sickest part was the bidder's comments. Things like he'd fit nicely in my collection. Can't wait to get his body. I want to taste his skin. Along with a series of other horrifying and disturbing things they wanted to do to me, which I really don't want to repeat. I backed away and began to hyperventilate. It felt like my heart was going to stop and my brain was going to explode, thinking about all the horrible things that could happen to me at the hands of these sick people who wanted to take possession of my life. Most of the rest of the night was a blur. I remember placing a bid of $1,000 right off the bat to top the list, then periodically placing other bids of another $3,000 every 30 minutes until I reached almost $30,000. After that, I must have passed out because the next thing I remember was waking up curled up like a ball under my desk in a puddle of cold sweat. It was still dark outside, so the flashing lights of my monitor were very noticeable. I could feel myself trembling with fear as I slowly unwound from under the desk before looking at the screen and seeing, in big red comic letters, "Congratulations, you've won. Please provide where you'd like to send your prize. We'll send an agent to deliver your package." I felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over me as I realized I had just bought myself. Sure, I ended up putting myself almost into debt before even finishing college, but I'm alive and free. Knowing that those bastards wouldn't be able to live out their fantasies was enough to make me forget any potential money problems. I think I even started laughing like a madman for a second as I typed, "Let him go. I bought his freedom so you wouldn't harm him," hoping that would be enough explanation. Thankfully it was, as I was quickly responded to with another message, "Understood. Your product will be removed from all auctions and marked as sold. Thank you for your purchase." Even relieved, reading this almost made me collapse, as if all the stress and tension that had built up had been drained from my body, only to quickly return as I reread the message. They knew I had bid on myself. They were still watching. The next few months were a hell of paranoia and anxiety. I tried to explain what I could to Matt, and he did his best to calm me down, but it was useless. Eventually, after a while, I managed to move on. I guess my mind forced me to block it all out, but it all came rushing back now, thanks to an email I just received from Matt almost 8 years after that night. "Please help. I don't have the money to outbid the highest bidder." I responded as quickly as I could, asking him to send me his PayPal or something. That was 2 days ago. I haven't received a response. I think he lost the auction. My name is Mark, and I never believed in curses until I stumbled upon the dark web's shadowy marketplace late one night. Curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself navigating through the hidden corners of the internet, drawn to the forbiddens. That's when I discovered a site selling cursed items, relics with sinister histories. It was an auction site selling objects that supposedly brought bad luck. As I explored the catalog, one item caught my eye: a worn, antique mirror, supposedly belonging to a French courtesan. According to rumors, after she died of typhoid fever, everyone who owned the mirror became inexplicably ill. You might be wondering why I decided to bid on the item. But honestly, as I said before, I didn't believe in curses at the time. I just thought it would be something cool and macabre to have. So, instead of being terrified about winning the auction, I was actually excited. The mirror arrived at my apartment in the city in a discreet package, and as I unwrapped it, a chill ran down my spine. The frame seemed to exude an unsettling aura. When the cursed mirror entered my life, I was in good health, but soon after, my problems doubled, and I began to feel unlucky. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence, but there are no coincidences in this world. My relationships crumbled, and an inexplicable cloud of misfortune followed me like an unrelenting shadow. I could feel eyes on me, even in the solitude of my own apartment. But it wasn't until I developed a persistent, unpleasant cough that I connected it to the mirror. Desperation led me to search for a way to break the curse. Online forums offered little solace, and the dark web seller was impossible to trace. It was as if the curse had woven itself into the very fabric of my reality, leaving me isolated and tormented. One stormy night, I confronted the mirror, demanding an end to the suffering it had brought into my life. But of course, nothing looked back at me except my own reflection. I then sought the help of a paranormal expert, but even they were disturbed by the presence of the cursed artifact, and attempts at exorcism proved futile. The malevolence embedded in the mirror seemed to feed off my despair. Haunted by the curse, I decided to rid myself of the cursed object. I discarded the mirror in a remote location, hoping to sever the ties that bound me to its dark influence. However, as I walked away, I had a coughing fit, a final reminder that curses, once unleashed, are not easily escaped. My life, once full of promise, has become a cautionary tale. The cursed mirror, now buried far from where I live, still holds its power over me. My cough hasn't gone away. So, I'm trying to remove everything related to the mirror, including all things related to the dark web. My name is Ryan, and what I'm about to share still sends chills down my spine. It all began with a fascination for the unknown, a curiosity that led me down a path I never imagined I'd tread. Late at night, driven by the whispers of online forums and the allure of the forbiddens, I ventured into the dark web. The sites I found were like a hidden underworld, a digital maze of secrets and illicit activities. Among them, I found a platform that promised access to information beyond the reach of conventional searches. Intrigued, I delved deeper, unknowingly setting the stage for the nightmare that awaited me. I became a regular visitor, frequenting forums where I would post and comment on various topics. Over time, I gained some recognition from other members of the site, receiving upvotes and reposts on most of the things I shared. As time passed, I also attracted a devoted commenter. No matter what I said or in which forum I posted, he was there, commenting. His name was Shadowwalker. A dark name, I know, but I wish I had kept that thought to myself, because as soon as I let it slip, my devoted commenter became my stalker, filled with hatred. The first sign of trouble came in the form of cryptic messages delivered to my inbox by Shadowwalker. The messages were disturbingly specific, describing my daily routines, my favorite places, and even the mundane details of my apartment. Panic set in when I realized someone was always watching me, both online and, it seemed, in the real world as well. The stalking intensified with each passing day. Shadowwalker's messages took on a more sinister tone, detailing how he would reach out and touch me whenever he wanted. My city, once vibrant and familiar, transformed into a frightening landscape where every shadow concealed a potential threat. One night, upon returning home, I found a chilling note on my door that read, "You can't hide." The line between the digital world and the physical is blurred. The city I thought I knew had become a sinister playground for my invisible stalker. Determined to free myself from this web of terror, I reported the stalking to the authorities, but Shadowwalker remained elusive, leaving no trace to follow. My apartment became a fortress every time I left. It was a nerve-wracking expedition through the shadows of potential danger. Living in fear, my mind became a battleground of paranoia and despair. The city, once my sanctuary, now felt like a cage closing in around me. The presence of my watcher was a constant threat, a reminder that the consequences of my curiosity about the dark web had transcended the digital world. My story is a warning to those tempted by the hidden corners of the internet. The allure of the dark web may seem enticing, but the price of diving into its depths could be a descent into a real-life nightmare, where the shadows of a city conceal more than just secrets. The deep web is one of the most incredible things on Earth, not because it makes people happy or anything like that, but because it's a completely uncensored view of people. You can say whatever you want, buy whatever you want, do whatever you want. When you're on the deep web, you have total freedom. I was always fascinated by the deep web, and at the time when the events of this story took place, I was in college. Many people on my campus were really interested in accessing the web. It was almost a trend. And with so many people using it, it seemed perfectly safe for me to give it a try. I had always heard horror stories about the deep web, stories of hackers stumbling upon disgusting websites, and even people finding out your address. These stories were mainly what kept me away from the deep web. But with most people at my college using it regularly, I decided to give it a shot. I asked a friend to come help me set everything up. When my friend arrived, we opened my laptop and started setting everything up. He told me that we were using Tor, a program that allows you to access the deep web. He also asked if I planned to do anything illegal, to which I replied that I didn't. He said that since I didn't plan to, we wouldn't need Tails, which is apparently software that makes everything more secure if you're planning to do illegal things. Shortly after, when everything was set up, I had my new IP address, and my friend gave me a brief explanation of what to do and what not to do. He made it very clear that when using the hidden wiki, I should keep it in censored mode to make it less likely that I would see something I didn't want to see. After about 2 weeks of using the deep web, I felt like a pro. I accessed many different sites, chatted with interesting people, made friends, and even bought some drugs. I felt confident and ready to dive deeper into the dark web. I turned off the censored mode on the hidden wiki and started browsing through the links. It took a while, mainly because Tor is a bit slow and many links led to dead pages. But eventually, I stumbled upon a site called All the Gore. It was mostly a big chat room with several different topics. I had a strong stomach and had already seen plenty of violent movies, executions, murders, etc. through the regular internet. After looking at a few different chat rooms, I realized just how sick this site really was. The people in these chat rooms were actual killers, boasting about some of the things they had done. In the chat room, you could also post pictures. A man with the username Culture had everyone's attention in one of the chat rooms. He was explaining in detail how he had broken into someone's house, kidnapped a little girl, and brutally murdered her parents, hiding under the bed and slitting their throats. He then explained how he took the girl to his house, did horrible things to her, beat her, and then cut her up. At first, I didn't believe he was telling the truth, but then he posted pictures. I had seen enough and typed into the chat room window, "You people are sick and deserve to die. How do you sleep at night?" Immediately, people started mocking me, saying I was as helpless and ignorant as the girl in the photos and that I should stay out of the adult part of the internet. They started calling me a coward. Then, Culture typed something in the chat box. "Seriously, where do you live, buddy? I'm sure everyone would love to see you on this site." Then, I made the biggest mistake of my life and typed, "I'm calling the police and getting this site shut down." Less than a minute later, everything on the site went black, and a new chat box appeared in green. Someone named Admin typed in the box, "Call the police and you'll regret it." I didn't type anything in the box and reached for my phone. What happened next haunts me to this day. My phone indicated that I had a new message. I opened it, and it said, "Call the police, and you're dead." There was no number, not even an unknown number. It was just blank. I looked back at my laptop and saw the light of my webcam flicker on quickly. I covered it, but I saw on the screen a picture of myself looking at the phone. My eyes widened, and I froze for a moment as the admin typed again, "Put the phone down now and uncover your webcam." I put the phone down but kept the webcam covered. He typed again, "Okay, have it your way." Shortly after, he posted my full name, age, and address in the chat box and typed, "Oh, it would be a shame if you and your college friends went missing, wouldn't it?" He then told me to follow his instructions on how to make it impossible for me to access the site again. I followed each and every one of them, and when I was done, I received a message saying, "Now never try to come back." And just like before, there was no number. I still called the police from a friend's phone, but they never managed to find the site. If you ever access the deep web, never browse aimlessly, especially if you don't have additional software to keep yourself safer. I was a stupid college student, and I just hope that no one makes the same mistakes I did. I moved to another place and changed all my information, but I still have nightmares to this day. This happened to me a few days later. I was extremely shaken by what had happened, and the police tried to trace the site, but since there was no way to recover my history and I had found that sick site just by randomly clicking on links, it seemed almost impossible to find it. The police advised me to change all my personal information and to stay with a friend. After practically changing everything, I decided to move to my friend David's place. He was an extremely honest and hardworking person. He never went to parties, never slacked off, never got drunk or high, and was very dedicated to finishing college. In fact, he was one of the few people I knew at the time who wasn't accessing the deep web regularly. I told him all about my experience with the deep web, and that was mainly why he agreed to let me stay with him. One night, we were studying late when my phone rang. I looked to see who had sent me a message, and I saw that the person sending the message didn't have a number, just like last time. The message simply said, "Check your computer," and there was nothing else, just a simple instruction. I opened my laptop, and when I did, I realized I had no control over the mouse. I tried to move it, but the mouse moved on its own. No one had remote access to my computer. I had never given remote access to anyone before. I tried several commands on the keyboard, but none worked. I realized that whoever was controlling my laptop was downloading software, probably malware, but there was nothing I could do. My phone rang again, and this time, the message said, "Look out the window." I was sitting near a window and didn't know which window the person was referring to, so I looked out the window I was near. I saw a man in the parking lot, leaning against a white van. He had a phone in his hand, and when I looked at him, he nodded. My phone rang again. Type and hold Shift plus Alt plus F5 at the same time to activate the software. I called David into my room to show him what was happening, and he seemed as nervous as I was. But with the man outside, we didn't want to upset him. David called the police immediately and told me they would arrive soon. I didn't activate the software and stood still. Eventually, I received another message that said, "I'll come in if you don't do it now." I didn't know why he or the person in control of my computer wanted me to activate the software, but I didn't dare ask. At the same time, I was 99% sure this program was malware or spyware or something that would be very harmful to my computer. So, I refused to activate it. David grabbed a baseball bat in case the man outside tried to get in. About 5 minutes later, we heard the door handle turning. It was locked, but we heard someone banging on the door. We were terrified, and I looked out the window again. As expected, the man and the van were gone. The banging on the door became more violent until we finally heard a horrible scratching sound. It lasted a few more minutes, and then we heard footsteps walking away down the hall and eventually disappearing. Then I received another message saying, "We'll be back." This really shook me up. When the police arrived, they told me to look at my door. I followed them back to the hallway and saw that my name was carved into the door. The police began investigating the entire building and brought in a tech officer to examine my computer. He started running checks and investigating the strange software on my laptop. Eventually, he managed to shut it down and remove it, telling me that my laptop was not secure. He said that the main files had been hacked and corrupted. We did a complete wipe of my laptop, and he also looked at my phone. Just like last time, he couldn't figure out where the messages were coming from. He told me they would make sure to keep some officers around in case this happened again. The next day, I had just gotten back from school and was very tired. David wasn't home yet, so I went to my room and collapsed on my bed. I started to close my eyes when I heard a knocking sound coming from my closet. I lifted my head, but didn't hear anything again, so I went back to sleep. After a few minutes, the closet door creaked open, and I jumped out of bed. I saw a man wearing a mask coming toward me. I ran to the door and slammed it behind me. I dashed out to the parking lot, got in my car, and drove away as fast as I could. When the police arrived, the man, of course, was already gone, and the apartment, surprisingly, wasn't trashed or anything. Nothing appeared to be stolen. It seemed like he hadn't done anything initially that night. 2 officers were monitoring everyone entering and leaving the building to catch the man. I opened my laptop and noticed that my wallpaper had changed. It was just a bunch of trees, but it had been altered to a repulsive photo of a man wearing a mask, the same mask I had seen on the man in my closet. I also noticed that all my apps and programs were gone, and I saw the same software from last time right in the middle of the screen. I clicked on it, and it was already installed. Just like before, it took up the entire screen with what appeared to be a live stream. I couldn't exit, and the live stream was of a boy who looked about 13 or 14 years old, sitting at a computer. It didn't take long for me to realize I was watching through his webcam, and he had no idea. Then I saw a small chat box appear in the upper right corner of the screen, and someone typed, "Welcome to our live stream. We're glad everyone could be here. Thank you, John, for being here too." My eyes widened. My name was John, and they had been waiting until I was watching to start the live stream. As I watched, I saw the closet door behind the poor boy slowly open, and a man emerged holding a toolbox in one hand. He set the toolbox down and pulled out duct tape. He walked over to the boy and placed the tape over his mouth before grabbing him forcefully. The boy's face was filled with terror. He tried to scream, but he couldn't because of the tape. They were making quite a bit of noise, so I realized the boy must have been home alone. The next scenes are extremely disturbing, so to summarize, the masked man attacked the poor boy until he died. I tried every possible command to exit, but nothing worked. I noticed that in the chat box, several people were cheering for the man and asking him to do different things to the boy. I started crying, unable to do anything to stop it. I felt sick and vomited all over the floor, and when I looked back, I saw people typing horrible things in the chat box. I saw someone named Culture type, "Thanks for watching, John." After that, the program closed by itself, leaving me with a repulsive wallpaper. I was sweating, breathing heavily, and feeling nauseous. During the whole time, I didn't realize my phone had been ringing multiple times. I looked at it and saw the most hateful and cruel messages coming from my friends and family. I asked my mom what was wrong, and she replied, "You sent that sick live stream to everyone. I can't believe who you are." The police were called. I felt even sicker than before. Those monsters had somehow sent that live stream to all my friends and made it look like it came from me. They had practically ruined my life in a matter of minutes. When the police arrived, I told them everything that had happened, and they quickly managed to explain to all my friends and family what had occurred. They really worked hard to find these people, and a month later, 4 men were arrested. One of them was Culture, and another was Admin. The other 2 were working with them. The site was found and shut down, and I got a new laptop and phone. I could say some horror cliche here and claim that I kept receiving text messages or hearing strange things, but nothing like that has happened since. They were arrested, and I never heard anything more about it. It's good to know those men are in jail or maybe even dead, but what scares me is that all the other people who watched that live stream for pleasure are still out there, and there are probably thousands of others like them all over the world.
Thanks for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss any new and terrifying videos.